There is a generation in dire need of wellness. Will you pick up your stick and trek forward down the path towards global healing? Or will you take the easy route and live as a bystander? Hello, my name is Christian Brown. I am excited and honored to be joining you today from Paris, France. I want to thank the entire GatherVerse team and my friend Christopher Lafayette for this opportunity to speak with you today on this stage. Today I will be telling a story. Before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am currently the co-founder and CEO of a wellness startup named Blemish. Our goal is to empower imperfect people for a better tomorrow. But truly, at my core, I am an African American male born at the split of generations. Depending on which metric you use, I am both a very young millennial and the first of a new generation called Generation Z. And this classification gives me an interesting yet unique perspective on many different topics. But on this talk, I will address an issue that has deeply affected Generation Z. It's hard to fully articulate the impact that mental illness has had on Gen Z, but statistics alone show that suicide is the leading cause of death within the past few years for this generation. Now, this talk is not going to be just about the problem of mental health, because we all know that it's an issue. It's an issue many people struggle with daily, whether it's depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar disorder, even low self-esteem, or as some people call it, comparison syndrome. About 1 in 3 adults struggle with one of these issues or an issue that I didn't mention. And my goal here is to simply tell a story of mental wellness as told by one who has seen its harboring effects throughout generations in my family, throughout my community, and within personally. I will end this story by telling you about the mission that I am on to pioneer along a road of removing the stigma placed on mental health and ultimately making it acceptable socially to be vulnerable about your mental wellness. It's my hope that after you watch this, you will be encouraged to join me on this journey towards global healing. This new generation needs your support, and more importantly, your entire global family needs your support. This story is one of a man named Abu. Abu lived in Africa during the 19th century. He was born into a loving family rooted in deep tradition. He grew to be a happy man. He loved his family and they loved him back dearly. Abu worked hard daily to provide for them. And he was a simple man. Abu loved what he did, he loved who he was, and ultimately he loved who he was becoming. And then, without warning, Abu lost it all. He was forcefully taken away from his family and demanded to work for little to nothing while enduring inhumane conditions. Abu went from a happy man to a man who questioned his existence. He felt worthless. He felt like he no longer needed to be here on this earth. He was sent from place to place only to endure the same consequences. The only thing that kept him going was a dream that he would one day be reunited with his family, to hug his children, to kiss his wife once again. Unfortunately, that day never came. But what did come some 200 years later was a descendant of Abu who received a once in a lifetime opportunity, and this descendant endured a very different upbringing than Abu. He was not forced away from his family. He was not demanded to work in inhumane conditions, but still, he struggled with similar feelings. Growing up in a culture where everyone's lives seemed so public digitally, he knew what all of his peers were doing at any time of any day. He can see the lives of others. He had access to many different people who considered themselves role models, both good and bad. And this descendant filled his mind with images of how his life should look based on what he saw in media every day. He couldn't help but think about how far off his life was from the images that he saw daily on social media. This created feelings of shame, feelings of worthlessness, feelings of feeling like he had no place on this earth. This descendant had a desire to live a life that seemed so glamorous, and the desire was so strong that he was willing to do whatever it took, both good and bad. And soon enough, this descendant was able to get a glimpse of the lifestyle that was supposed to make him happy. But instead, it led him down a deeper hole of mental illness. He was struggling, and he felt judged by the people around him. He felt like something bad would happen to him whenever he stepped outside of his doors. He was depressed and he was anxious. But luckily, he was given the freedom to explore. The freedom to explore the advantage that he had growing up in a generation where technology is easily accessible. He wondered if he could use this technology for good. And this curiosity sparked a desire for self-education. He educated himself on relationship building, on self-improvement, on motivation, business, philosophy, and even technology. Through this education, his mind expanded, and soon after that, his environment expanded. He was able to find a community, find resources, wise mentors, and professionals who could help him to develop crucial skills to be mentally well, and he was able to have fun while doing it. See, his self-education changed this descendant's life, but first it changed his mindset. And he was now inspired. He was inspired to find a way for others to have a similar transformation and become mentally well. Now that's the end of this story, but this story birthed a project that I started last year called Blemish. Blemish is a first of its kind, community-driven virtual wellness ecosystem. Now, what does that mean? I know. Basically, we are building a safe space in the Metaverse for humans from all around the globe to find a positive community, insightful resources, wise counsel, and fun experiences. And we are crazy enough to believe that we can use this precious gift of emerging technology to positively impact the world, not use it for greed or to take advantage of our global family, but instead to empower them. We are coming off of the greatest season of mental illness in the state of modern history that has ever been recorded. And um, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, there's a generation that is most at risk for this crisis of mental illness and ending their lives early. And so I ask you once again, will you trek forward down this path towards global healing? Will you help your fellow brothers and sisters after looking within and helping yourself? Or will you stand by and watch? This is a serious question that I pose to you today, and it is one that our blemished community asks themselves very often. And you may be wondering, well, I would like to make a stand and walk forward down this path, but what does that look like? So I'll tell you, one thing that you can do, no matter where you are, no matter what time it is where you are, you can call a friend, you can call a family member, and you can ask them genuinely, with sympathy, how are you? It's simple. Ask, is there anything that I can do to help you along your journey? I am here for you. Another thing that you can do is educate yourself on this topic of mental wellness. And as we are still building out our project at Blemish, we are offering an opportunity for those who would like to check forward to join our community and receive weekly reinforcement and weekly education on mental wellness topics. We would love to have you join our community. And you can do that by simply sending me a direct message, whether it be on LinkedIn or via email. You can just say that you would like to join our community and you're accepting this opportunity. Or you can go to www.blemish.com. So there you can put your name and email, and we'll begin to send you positive reinforcement and weekly inspiration. And so I want to thank you for taking this time for watching this talk today and listening to me speak. And I hope to join you again one day along this journey. Be well and enjoy the remainder of this FreeSpring Mental Wellness Summit. From Paris with Love, signed, a descendant of Abu. Peace and love to you all.
Hi, I'm Paige Dansinger, the founding director of Better World Museum and Horizon Art Museum. In this next half an hour, I'm going to share with you how I believe that social VR is a recipe for resilience. starts out here in this purple flower world. Purple flower survivors started out actually a long time ago before I ever had VR. Better World Museum's first collaboration in the community was a VR empathy experience. Over 65 survivors of violence contributed by drawing a purple flower. Thank you for joining me in this journey of social VR, a recipe for resilience. Purple Flower Survivors was Better World Museum's very first community collaboration with a nonprofit and local artists. 65 survivors of domestic violence used an iPad to draw a purple flower. The drawings were uploaded into Unity, and an environment of an empathy experience was created. We learned that all people have trauma, loss, suffering, or grief that they're experiencing, and drawing flowers and gardens was a wonderful way to help support vulnerable humans to grow stronger together. And Better World Museum had an indoor edible garden and worked in our community, especially with teens, to learn the urban edible plants. This passion turned into our VR garden project. The very first day I ever got an Oculus, I downloaded a drawing program and drew a flower. I posted a link inviting anyone in the world to remix and add to that garden. A friend laughed and said I had opened myself up to the worst of the internet. But first, one person in Ireland drew in the garden, and then another person in New York. And before I knew it, 200 people had grown into 4,000 people who have participated in the VR garden. With the support of the Facebook Community Leadership Program, I closed Better World Museum to create a modular pop-up VR garden traveling experience. I took it to Shenzhen and Beijing to join XR Pioneer with a team of educators and students to develop ways to create more resilient individuals, groups, and communities with social VR programs and drawing together in VR. We found that students who were shy or reserved really came out of their shell. In VR, they became confident and assured that they could create what they wished. They became creators rather than consumers, and that gave them power. Next, Better World Museum went to the MIT Reality Hackathon, leading a project called the AR Community Garden. Over 70 people drew a dandelion. An ARB pollinated the urban edible plants that would pop up from these drawings, and everyone felt connected. We were drawn together. We were growing. It is clear that drawing together in VR creates more resilient individuals, groups, and communities. But what happens when real big stuff happens? One story of teen leadership development was a real recipe for resilience and was shared at the World Health Organization Arts and COVID Symposium. I had created this pizza party inside of Rec Room. 3 really young people came and they giggled and they were disruptive and they were silly, and I kind of thought they were awesome. 13 and 15-year-olds, and they volunteered to create a museum for me. I said, go ahead, make whatever you want, I trust you. I was tired. I took off my headset and I went to sleep. It was amazing. They made classrooms, incredible, sophisticated design and architecture inside of the space, and I was blown away. They were amazing. So they became our lead architect, our holotar educator, our DJ booth designer, and our very first artist in residence.
Oh, maybe. Oh my gosh, is that pizza? I'm hungry.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm so hungry. Okay, I'm gonna eat the pizza right now. Oh my god. I'm gonna eat all your pizza. Oh, great. Eat all your pizza. Pizza party. Sorry, it's all gone now. Pizza abundance. I love it. Oh my god, wait.
How do you get it?
So awesome.
It's calorie free.
I know.
Not even any calories.
We're here together with Maddie, who is one of our world designers and virtual holotar educators. Maddie, would you tell me a little bit what it was like to work on this building project?
Well, it was fun to be able to like work together as a team and like put in a work effort, and we also like got to know each other as friends and came closer. Like it brought us together more as friends.
You just be you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In VR, it's a different experience. You're able to actually physically interact with them, even though they're not there. But it still gives, like, tap them on the head or something like that, you know.
If you had a label of your leadership role, what would you call yourself?
I would call myself the architect. So the whole structure you see here, all the flooring, the support, the funky roof. So pretty much all the lighting block stuff. The structure around you when you're in this room is built by me. So all of this was made from my head. So yeah, when I build.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah. Why not? I'll help your community by building you a room, and that's where my true building started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah.
I just said, make whatever you want. I trust you.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely
Good.
trusted you, yeah.
Good.
Right.
What advice do you have?
This map got into a newspaper. Even though it's a game, this rec room can change your life. Right? So I can tell you the social impacts which rec room has actually helped me on with. I had trouble giving eye contact, but after actually playing rec room, I tended to look at people's eyes properly, so it actually socialised. Then I actually spoke more. I'm actually I think I've become more comfortable speaking now because of Rec Room, because it's actually helped me develop my social skills and especially leadership skills as well, because I'm able to actually localise things and make sure that things get done.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he put me on that headset, I was like, this is my future.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me now.
So today we're making a rainbow. In order to make a rainbow, you must include the colours red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, brown and black. Thank you.
I'm Alexander. I'm 11 and I love trees and VR. I make a flower and a rose that sort of looked really real. For the bees, I started off by making it really big, then doing all the small details, and then scaling it down. And over time, it goes bigger. And at the end, a little bird. Here's the inside.
Oh, okay.
A lot more interactive than everything else. You have to get the water to plant.
As your pieces have grown, you have really grown as an artist. Secretly, I had been recruited by the Facebook Horizon team to be a pre-alpha creator. It was really exciting. I used primitive shapes, gizmos, and simple block scripting for the very first time to create interactive worlds. It was so exciting. I knew that Better World Museum could help pollinate Horizon with resilient people too. And I had two questions. What really is meaningful time together? And how can games be a part of building significant connection, more equitable space, and having people understand diametrically different opinions? How could learning objectives like these, mixed with game design, help create a better world and more resilience? If people could gather regularly to solve simple problems together, when larger things happened, people would easily be able to work better together. With this in mind, I started to create the Horizon Art Museum.
Participating in the Plus Community Voices program, as well as attending the museum events, have really made me feel like my voice, my point of view, my life experiences, my gender, my ethnicity, all of it, all of me, that it all matters to this VR, XR community. And each time I leave the museum, I feel enriched and empowered.
Hello, welcome. This is Paige Dansinger at the Horizon Art Museum, an ever-expanding museum. Horizon Art Museum is dedicated to women artists. We're a site for social action. We pay diverse and LGBTQ plus creators to learn new skills and amplify their own voices in Horizon. I'd love to demonstrate one of these with you.
The bold colors and patterns made with recycled fabric seem to be giving me a tangible piece of Bendoff's life. These quilts, made by women who were among the small population of enslaved Black families able to retain their history, channeled that into an artwork that ended up influencing all of U.S. art history. My question is, what did the art world do with that legacy? And what can we do today to amplify the Gi women's legacy?
Every gallery has a game. The emoji treasure hunt is so fun. Our visual thinking strategy cards democratize perceptions and understandings of art and levels the playing field.
Yayoi Kusama's Fireflies on the Water is not only a contemporary art installation, it's a journey in existentialism. It forces us to see ourselves in the wide open darkness, and for me, it forces me to confront my fear of infinity, of endlessness. The dark expanse terrifies me, but this revelation gives me light.
Welcome. Join me inside of the Infinity Room.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
How do they do this? Oh, wow. Oh.
The colors change. Are you new in Horizon?
Cool. Yes.
You'll be able to learn how to do this too. High five.
Ah.
Yeah. Super. Inspired by a game design program, I've been creating mini games. Lately, members of the community have been joining me by creating 2.
Abe cannot be here with a snake. He would have bit me.
Oh yeah, there it is.
I'm the heart for the shape.
The love.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I agree. The heart should be with the love.
Yeah,
Yes.
selfie by the heart. Yeah, that's a great one. I love that.
Oh,
Today, I want to share with you our non-player character. Hey, Athena. Mwah. She follows the visitors around the temple complex.
I am Messina, the goddess of war and wisdom.
I've also been creating some vases. Ezekiel worked in the black figure technique. Achilles and Ajax are playing a game. Ezekiel made me. The teams are able to compete with a myth. We're here today at the Triple Arch, accompanied by Queen Zenobia, our non-player character. The real Queen Zenobia was fierce.
Welcome. My name is Batya. I am the daughter of Pharaoh. I am the daughter of God. You are at the Giza Pyramid Complex.
Convince the critic.
Nice.
All right, you're the winners.
Good job.
Good job. I'm here with Buffy Buffers, and we're going to stretch like Ellsworth Kelly's double curve created in 1988. Social VR can be used for audiences outside of VR to build resilience as well. Examples like stretching like sculptures, or painting the scream, or Starry Night meditation are some ways that audiences may build resilience.
I've never been to the pyramids, but always wanted to, and this is massive.
Yeah,
this is
right?
so cool.
So hello,
I
and
love
welcome
this.
to the pyramids at Giza. In front of you is the actual original entrance to the pyramid. So, the pyramid at Giza. This is the pyramid of Khufu. And maybe we'll just go up first.
Be careful.
I love all ancient history. My favorite subject in school was ancient history.
This is so cool. Wow. Okay, so here we are at the Queen's Chamber level.
Okay, one more selfie together.
And one of the best things that I want to say, one of the things, through the process of building the pyramids here and looking at the pictures and seeing the scale that's involved and everything, and going through all this, I have learned so much about the pyramid.
My Horizon friend Nava Berg and I started Women in Horizon to amplify women's voices. We do monthly creator spotlights with interviews and world hops. Our newest feature, the Garden Club, is an extension of the VR Garden. This is one example of a VR garden in which was created to rally around a community member in crisis. Members in the community learned how to build flowers out of primitive shapes, and they added it to this environment and then gathered together as a community of support for our community member. But through that process and experience, I realized that there's not one among us who's not carrying on to grief, pain, trauma, and loss in some incredible ways. Many Horizon creators are part of this creation, so it goes to share that there's many among us that share a survivorship, and also resiliency, and also allyship. So it takes all of us in our community. And thank you for allowing me to share that with you. Thank you for joining me on this journey, demonstrating how I believe deeply that world building equals community building. And this kind of practice is exactly a recipe for resilience. I've demonstrated how one purple garden led to a global VR garden. This global VR garden impacted thousands of community members. These community members worked together, growing, building, and creating for a better world. When diverse teens, women, and LGBTQ members of our community work together and have amplified voices and leadership roles, then anything can happen. We can live the true way in a fully of, by, for all circular system that's sustainable, healthy, and promotes the best living for all human creatures and planetary kind. I really believe that how we live and build and work together in Horizon and social VR can be a model for what happens outside of VR, and that creating change and impact is what exactly will create a seamless wave in between VR and our real lived lives, creating a smooth living experience of social VR in all time. Thank you for joining me today, Paige Dansinger, the founding director of Better World Museum and Horizon Art Museum, as I shared this recipe for resilience. Thank you.
Good morning, GatherVerse. My name is Aileda, and I have an organization called Ask Aileda. I'm here to share with you today some of my favorite topics on the face of the planet. They consist of neuroscience, quantum physics, epigenetics. I'm fascinated about the latest science and technology that is being created faster than the speed of light, it seems like, on the face of our planet across almost every single industry. I am here because I was invited, and I'm super grateful that I get to be a speaker on the GatherVerse for mental health and well-being and this summit in particular. I am humble that I get to share my knowledge and my research and my experience and my wisdom with you in regards to how our physical systems work. I am going to refer to it as our operational systems, our actual physical body and mind, and share some of the things that I have learned throughout my years, and hopefully explain it in a fashion that is going to make sense to you in a very short and quick period of time. Because understanding how our operational system, our physical body, and our mind functions is really important, not just for mental health, but total overall health and well-being physically. So on that note, I'm going to just dig right in and say, we always hear the term mind, body, and spirit, especially in this arena of well-being. So mind, body, and spirit, yes, are important because it helps your physical system hold balance. However, I am here to say to you that it is in the wrong order that we are saying those. Our system actually should be functioning, if you visualize it like a pyramid, our system should be spirit at the top of the pyramid. Mind should be at the lower left-hand portion of the pyramid, and our physical body should be the lower right. So it should be spirit, mind, body, not mind, body, spirit. It is spirit, mind, body, and I'm going to tell you why. Spirit, let's refer to that as in neuroscience as our conscious mind. So I'm equating spirit at the top of the pyramid to conscious mind, and that's a neuroscience term. So it's a conscious mind state of being. The mind then we're going to label as subconscious mind. Again, this is neuroscience. So in neuroscience, what we would call the mind, we're going to refer to in this example as subconscious mind. The body is our physical body, our physical operating system, and it actually is also our natural pharmacy, and our mind definitely controls our physical body. So we'll dig into that more as we discuss this. First, let me go into what our mind is. So our mind is a quantum computer, and neuroscience is now in the process of mapping our minds as fast as they possibly can. It's happening at an astronomical rate of speed. Computer systems are being designed and replicated, technology, following our minds, trying to like map our minds, which is super fascinating. And that's why I'm just going to equate it as our computer. Like our brain, our mind is our quantum computer. It is ours to use. And it is proven that our mind can tell our body what to do. And the reason why I say that's proven is because they have taken amputees and they have hooked up robotic arms now through the brain stem and then through the neural pathways. I don't want to say just neural pathways, also the nerves, right? And they now can have people move robotic arms through thought process, through their brain. So the mind absolutely controls the body. The mind does whatever we tell it to. So this is where conscious mind and spirit can come into the equation. So it's proven also that we can tell our mind what to do. Let's equate this in another analogy. And let's say that our spirit or our conscious mind or our free will is the pilot to the plane. Our pilot should be driving our plane, our physical system, not our autopilot, which would be the equivalent of our subconscious mind or quantum computer. Our quantum computer should not be running itself on consistent prior programs. Why do I say this? Because all of our programming, and it's called programming, so it's perfect for our computer analogy. Our programming is our experiences, our previous experiences in life, perhaps how we're raised. It could be experiences that we've gathered along the way through our research, our studies. It could be experiences that have been traumatic and stuck. It can be happy experiences as well. Life, right, that we've lived up to this point. Main key things that have set themselves into our hardwiring are our programming in our brain, in our computer. And now it's also being proven that not just now, this has been proven and has been something that has been, scientists have been aware of for a period of time. And that is that we're in conscious mind, conscious state of being, 5% of the time as a mass populace. And the other 95% of the time, the majority of the population is operating on subconscious mind. That means repeat programs over and over and over again. So that also would equate to repeating the past over and over and over again. That would also equate to our quantum computers being on autopilot and running themselves without us, the spirit, conscious mind, free will, title it however we want to title it, pilot of the plane, being on board. Why is this a problem? Not a problem. Let's say, why is this our greatest challenge, in my opinion, as one humanity? Our greatest challenge as humanity is that we need to wake up and be in conscious mind and conscious state of being. Why? Because if I'm supposed to have a pilot on the plane, right, which none of us wants to be flying across the planet on autopilot. I don't think there's a single one of us that would say, oh yeah, go ahead and just put that plane on autopilot. And yeah, we don't even need a pilot, like no pilot at all. The pilot is your conscious mind. It's free will. It's your ability to make different choices and decisions. It's your ability to be consciously aware in the present moment without your quantum computer running itself on either the past or the future or previous programs. This is also then super important because our mind controls our body, right? So if we're running primarily on negative programs versus positive programs, and if it's true, which we know it is, that there's basically an epidemic of mental health problems, fear and anxiety throughout our human populace, and people are starting to take a stand and speak up for that, then people need to understand and be able to make conscious decisions to not repeat those programs or continue to feed those programs or continue to live their life and repeat patterns. It's important for us as a humanity to not relive history or repeat patterns and programs. It's important for us to have conscious state of being so that we can make new choices that are of free will and that are in the present moment, truly paying attention, not functioning on programming. Let's talk about programming because it's important. So one of the first things I would say and encourage all of you is pay attention to your programming. I would encourage you to pay attention to all aspects of programming. This means social media, anything that's consumed via the television or the news or anything that you read or anything that you listen to, your music choices, all of it's programming in a day's time, daily. So I will encourage you to pay attention. Is it primarily positive or is it primarily negative? If it is primarily negative, and I will say to you, if you're watching the news, I already know the answer. It all is primarily negative. People have grown as a mass consciousness to be in a state of thinking that the world is horrible because that's all they're broadcasting. And when I address this with people and I encourage them to really think about what they're consuming, I am challenged, and I get a lot of my clients have said, Aileda, I'm a realist and I have to know what's happening in the world. Granted, agreed. So I also tell them you can get that and you can get educated in a quick skim and find the right resources and do a quick skim of things and read it. And you don't have to watch it in front of a TV, which is proven to kind of put you in a meditative state of being, which is going to have you absorb that programming or that information just a little bit more than if you just quickly skim it and read it. So I'm all about awareness. I'm all about education. I'm all about understanding what's happening in the latest matters in today's world. I am not about people thinking that this is our reality, because reality is that there's just as many miracles happening in today's world and it's not being broadcasted. So there's a philosophy in our programming systems, our broadcasting systems. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. And this is where I encourage people, and I tell people too, I'm like, I'll challenge you. Think about the last time you were out in public. Think about the majority of the people that you're around or that you witness or that you see. There's a good chunk of them that are helping each other. They're supporting each other. They're going out of their way for each other. They're being kind to each other. They're gathering together because they want to feel a sense of community in some way or in some aspect. For me, that is just validation of what I'm saying. So if we pay attention and we're consciously aware, we're in a free will state of being, and we're not in a pre-programmed state of being and we're out walking around in today's world, we primarily, especially here in America, do not see all of this angst amongst ourselves. There's more unity than what's being broadcasted, shall we say. So it's important, especially if you have fear or anxiety or things that are not making you feel good, or your physical system is in disorder and you're not feeling well. Because again, keep in mind that we have a natural pharmacy in our body. That natural pharmacy is going to release chemicals into our system based off of our thoughts and what we are allowing these programs to run on. And so if it's primarily positive, then you're going to have a lot of good stuff going on in this physical system and an awful lot of well-being. And if you're not conscious or your programming is not 100% on the positive side of things, then there's probably things and thoughts and programs that are happening that are maybe not super optimal or the highest level of optimum for your physical system. You hear people say that we have to build into our new systems, or I will say that we have to build into our new systems more empathy and compassion across the board. And that aggravates people oftentimes when they hear me say that, but there's more than just me. There's people saying it in today's world. Those people are primarily people who understand how all of this works and why some of these things are so vital and so important, especially at this place and time. So I hope that this has been educational for you. I hope you understand more about how your body and your physical system and your mind works. I hope that you understand how important your programming is. I hope you understand how important it is to stay in a conscious, free will, present moment state of being right here with me right now, versus letting your quantum computer run itself on autopilot. I hope that you have an amazing day. Thank you for sharing this time with me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending my talk. Thank you so much to Christopher Lafayette and GatherVerse for having me here. I am grateful to be speaking at FreeSpring. Mental health is something that we don't talk about, but it's time that we speak up. I'm here to share my own story. I'm also here to help you figure out how you can have the courage and wisdom to share your own. I am Dr. Messina Morris. I'm the Metaversity Director of Morehouse in the Metaverse, where we made virtual reality the classroom. I am also CEO and founder of Metaverse United, where we help people find where they belong in the embodiment of the internet called the Metaverse. You can find me at unitethemetaverse.com. This is one of the most important months of the year. It's May, and it's Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm going to talk to you about immersive meditation practices to improve your mental mantle. I am a professor at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. Morehouse College is a very special place. It is a place that cultivates young Black male minds in order to build servant leaders in our community. Talking about my own journey is challenging, but it is also healing. I'm so many things, and I'm so many things to so many people. What I realized about that was I was so many things to so many people and no one for myself. And that had to change. So, if you know me, you know some of my story. But for my new friends here, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I am a wife to a techie and a gamer. I am a mother to 5 sons. 2 of my sons have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. One has moderate support needs and is limited verbal. The other is high functioning and highly communicative. I have also been a caregiver to someone, my mother-in-law, who I love dearly, who had early stages of dementia. All while working a full-time job as a professor, nurturing and educating 2,200 young Black men, being the department chair of chemistry, developing chemistry content in virtual reality, starting businesses, doing speaking engagements, running an educational consulting firm, and also making sure that I showed up at basketball games for my young people and conferences and things like that. I also serve in my community on national and local boards and also within my professional societies. And those things are important to me. The thing about it is, I love the work that I do. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much that doing it was nearly killing me. As a Black woman, you learn from a very young age how to deal. And I learned a lot of methods as to how to hide what I was feeling, how to pray it out, shout it out, and get back to the business of being everything for everybody. And I realized that that wasn't going to cut it. And I realized that everything that I thought meant the world to me was about to be taken from me because I was no longer in a healthy state of mind or at capacity to be able to enjoy the things that I love to do the most. This last year was such an important time for me. There was a lot of growth on our Metaversity front. We tripled our virtual reality course offerings and have offered 15 courses now in virtual reality across all disciplines. We have 450 MetaQuest 2 headsets circulating on the campus of Morehouse College. And student demand and faculty demand has increased. I have 24 faculty members waiting to get into the program and being trained right now to know how to teach their courses in virtual reality. My business has taken off, and for that, I'm grateful. True confession, I'm also a high-functioning person with depression, anxiety, and I am a self-identified woman with neurodiverse learning challenges and issues. And no one told me until I started investigating that I also have autism spectrum disorder. Girls typically get overlooked because they can function socially and cope. But I discovered as a mom working on a PhD with 4 children in biomolecular chemistry that coping was the last thing that I could do. And there I started my journey to see how I could get help beyond what I even understood I needed. And there I sought therapy and medication treatments, holistic approaches, and everything in order to become a better me. I'm not sure what you need, but I'm going to give you an advice, a peek into my world, a peek into what I did with our young kids at Morehouse College that gave them a peace of mind and some freedom in a time to reflect and community, a sense of belonging, and a sense that someone was there for them. Even though we use immersive virtual reality in the academic classroom, I thought that it would be an awesome idea to use it to bring our community of young Black men together. They were hearing so many things over the pandemic that affected them, including young Black men being killed in the streets. And they felt like targets. A lot of them felt like, how could we tell them that their future was bright and believe us when the world didn't see them the same way, didn't value them, nor saw their worth or their intelligence? We had bomb threats to our campuses on HBCU campuses this year. And in the Atlanta University Center, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse College, and Spelman College all had to shut down because of it. And our students were living scary, on the edge lives. And I could tell their livelihoods were zapped. It's hard to concentrate on what the future will be when you're living day to day. And that's what our students were doing. They were starting to become traumatized by just being Black men. And a lot of our young Black men and Black male population are traumatized. Let me tell you a little statistic. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has statistics on these things. And in 2020, 49% of young people ages 18 to 23 died by suicide and or homicide. If you break that down demographically to look at just young Black men ages 18 to 23, which is college age, 64% die by suicide or homicide. And I knew that was a problem because there were some mental issues not being addressed. Hatred towards self and hatred projected outward in rage is homicide. So, what we decided to do was to implement a program called Meditation Mondays in the Metaverse. And boy, did our students show up. At 6 a.m. on Monday mornings, right before they got into their day or their week, they would get on to their headsets and we would do sleepy meditations sometimes. But we would do praise and worship, but also be together, share stories. And along the way, I was able to teach them some meditative practices. We meditated on our digital twin campus, beautifully created by Victory XR, our educational partners. And we were also able to meditate alone using different apps on the App Store in the MetaQuest 2, like Trip VR or Helium wonderful applications for helping to develop a meditation and a mindfulness practice. My students thrived. My students felt like they had a sense of community. My students journaled their way through this experience and reflected on how helpful it was. So I have a lot of information about how useful developing a mindfulness practice was for them, and learning how to consistently show up for themselves and their brothers was one of their greatest gifts. Being Dr. Mom is so important to me. That's what my students call me. And as long as it means that I'm molding their minds, then I'm okay with it. But in order for them to serve, in order for us to know that we're building disciplined minds of men who lead lives of leadership and service, it's important that they first learn to serve themselves. And it's important that you learn how to serve yourself. And that starts within. Immersive virtual reality is a way to help center your mind free from distraction and help you focus on your inward self. Focus on learning how to be a human being, not just a human doing. I've already been down that road, and I promise you, it's not the road best traveled. It's not the road that you want to exist on. You do not want to go down that road. It's detrimental to your health. And sometimes reaching out for help also makes a difference. And that is also an important lesson that they learned. That rather than sitting, isolating themselves in their dorm rooms and not reaching out to their cohorts of friends, families, professors, professionals, was also not the road that they wanted to travel. Doing the work is extremely important. Doing that viable inner work of seeking who you need to be to show up well in the world, that's important. That is where you find value. That's how you learn to create safe boundaries for yourself in safe spaces. Being in virtual reality was important for establishing a sense of well-being and community for young men at Morehouse. And that's how I know that it can happen for you. How do I know that it was going to work for them? Because I needed something. Because COVID shut down the world, I was developing a program, running a business, remote learning my students as well as my children, and trying to take care of my mother-in-law during a pandemic. And I realized that I needed to learn how to take care of me, because that I hadn't learned how to do. And I found these immersive virtual techniques that I could use. And it helped me learn how to show up for myself daily, how to be consistent in my practice, and how to put myself first when all the time I felt like I didn't belong. You belong to this world. But before that, you belong to yourself. And I want you to be healthy. I want you to know that self-care is not just a spa day. It's about creating environments that you want to inhabit. It's about checking in with your mental health. You can use immersive virtual reality to do that. You can use these immersive technologies that are cutting edge to help you. You can turn on your soundscapes or even your dance music and meditatively dance your way through. Help yourself find your joy. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve to show up if you want to, like I do, with purple hair and big old earrings and colorful African prints, or whatever your print is. You can show up however you want, authentically, and be confident in who you are and the brain and the intellect you have, the heart you have. And you can put humanity first if you put humanity first. Your humanity. Put yourself first. Take care of yourself first. You see, you don't have to be afraid to show up authentically as yourself. Today, this message to all of you is the most important lesson that I've ever taught. Because I want you to know I've been down that road of it all falling apart. And I was able to put back the pieces, set clear boundaries, and show up for myself. You matter more than anything else in this world. So cherish yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. Give yourself a high five. Get vulnerable. Be okay with not being okay. And there are people, professionals there to help you, therapies for you, ways in which you can reach out. Checking out is not a solution. The problem still exists. Get help. There is a national suicide prevention line. It's okay to not want to be here, but we don't want you to act on that. We need you here. So if you're thinking about harming yourself or others, please reach out to get help. There's a whole community here that is willing to help you. In immersive virtual reality, take time at the early part of your day or the latest part of your night to just be with you. Realize how good you are, how wonderful you are, and how much you have to offer this world. We need you. We need you to survive. And so, I will conclude this talk by saying, whenever you need a friend, you have one here. And if it's the last resort, feel free to call me. UniteTheMetaverse.com. That's where I am. Reach out and I'll be your friend. I am your friend. We are all connected, and it's important that you understand how valuable you are. See yourself. Be yourself. And you can use immersive virtual reality to do that. And I look forward to developing and building a community even outside of the gates of Morehouse College to do that for you. Look for more information coming from me about developing this community, because I want to make sure that you know where you belong in the environment of the internet called the Metaverse. And I want to help you belong to a community of like-minded individuals who want to see you here, who want to see you thrive. And so, survive, be strong, but be strong means being vulnerable. And just being is quite enough. Thank you for listening to my talk, for hearing me. I hope it resonated with you. I hope you know how valuable you really are. And I hope you know that this cutting edge and emerging technology is there to help you to improve the quality of your life, and it can be used to do so. So use it for that and enjoy every single day. Because since I learned how to be a human being and stop being a human doing, I found the greatest joy that I never knew, discovering me. Thank you.
Greetings, I'm Dr. Jenoch, and in the past 2 years, the intersection between education and technology has increased and intensified, and we have also seen an increased awareness and destigmatization of mental health. There is an intersection of education, technology, and mental health, and this will be discussed in this presentation. I will also make some recommendations for improving mental wellness in education and counseling settings with the use of technology. I am a college and university professor, as well as a mental health counselor who encourages the responsible use of technology. In both the educational and counseling settings, I have observed some trends with technology and will provide some use case examples of my experiences in these settings. So there are several ways in which education and technology are connected. I have listed a few of them here and will discuss mainly the first two in this presentation. Technology is present in our lives and has been present in the physical classroom. What are the implications and outcomes of this presence? I will explore that in the next couple of slides. Online learning has developed over the past few decades and includes a few of these formats. You have asynchronous format, which includes exclusive delivery online with no real-time interaction between the professor and the student. There is the synchronous format, which includes remote delivery of education, but includes regular virtual meetings. So that's similar to having like a Zoom meeting for work. And then the hybrid format includes a combination of online delivery with face-to-face meetings. Technology education is about educating and developing technology skills in students. So these would be classes that are focused on developing specific skills in technology. And then you have EdTech, which is defined here, occupies the intersection where technology and teaching meet. And it is the use of educational tools or software to enhance the delivery of education. So before students enter our classroom, it is important for educators to know these statistics. I'm not going to go through all of them, but overall, almost 80 to 90+% of students have access to technology, use technology or digital devices, and have social media accounts. Students have truly become digital natives where technology is an extension of their identity. 9 hours per day on social media is longer than the average working day, and this is something that we should really consider. So in the classroom, educators have had to include technology in the delivery of instruction, and we have met digital natives in this sense, and this is what's considered sanctioned use of technology. So this is using technology to research stuff in the classroom, to foster interactions between students and discussion. So it's where the instructor, professor says, hey, get online, research this. That's a sanctioned use of technology. One student, Ben Martin, 2015, wrote an opinion piece outlining that they wished their educators all used technology to deliver instruction because most of their interesting and fun classes were with professors who used technology. Another way that technology has been present in the classroom is through unsanctioned use of technology. A 2016 study revealed that 20% of students were checking messages, sending texts, checking social media, during classroom instruction. So we can ask ourselves, what impact is the presence of technology in the classroom having on students? So I have noticed some trends in this area, and those are increased distraction in face-to-face classes and reduced engagement. When I notice trends, I tend to survey those involved. So I surveyed students and found that their answers confirmed what I was reading in the literature. They have FOMO, fear of missing out. They want to keep up with the latest news and technology, so they feel the need to be engaged often with technology, and that could include when they're in the classroom. Reduced engagement was present in students showing an increased hesitation over the past 4 to 5 years in my classes and in other professors' classes to have discussions during class. Questions would be asked and students would really just be silent. They wouldn't express themselves. And so again, I went to the survey mode and asked, well, what's going on? Why are you not engaging in discussions like you used to before? And students revealed that they were afraid of saying the wrong thing in classes and that what they said would come back to them on social media. So the cancel culture was affecting their engagement in the classroom. And this was an interesting thing to learn. Online learning is the other way that education and technology have been connected. This has afforded a great amount of flexibility and has made education accessible for people of various socio-demographic locations. For example, mothers no longer had to worry about childcare in order to attend class or get an education. Someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s could pursue an education without feeling out of place. I recently saw on LinkedIn, just this past week, there was a post about an 81-year-old mother who just graduated with her bachelor's degree. We're seeing more of these days. So online learning in a way has opened up education and allowed us to accommodate more learning styles because it allowed for flexibility in how education was delivered. We had also switched to a learner-centered approach. And this is meaning that we are meeting the learner where they're at and not just using one model and applying it to everyone. Then March 2020 happened. Online learning, which was implemented at will, which means at the discretion of the institution, became a mandatory format for learning. The world was in crisis mode, and whenever that occurs, there are mental health effects. There was increased anxiety, depression, isolation, and stress. Online learning was new to many of us, and there was no proper instruction or preparation or manual on how to implement it. So educators, parents, students, they all felt that it was a situation that exceeded their resources or capacity and brought about feelings of stress. And as we know, stress can manifest itself in many, many different ways. So some of the trends that I've noticed are that students were developing a sense of learned helplessness. Learned helplessness describes a situation where someone is exposed to an unpleasant stimulus. So in this case, it was online learning, and there was no way out. They could not escape the stimulus. So in order for someone to be educated, which is something they may have enjoyed before, there was only one way to do it, no alternatives. So in situations like this, where the stimulus is prolonged or chronic, or the end is unknown, as it was with the pandemic, the person gives up. And so the term is that they feel helpless about the situation. And this was a feeling that was heard from many students. And this was also observed in students tending to drop out or check out, especially towards the end of semesters. They were no longer engaged because they felt that this learning format was very, very dissonant with what they preferred. So during the pandemic, I was fortunate to be able to provide a synchronous online class. And it was the most successful class that I've had in terms of student engagement and performance. And one tool that I feel has helped with this was the chat function. Now it may seem weird, right? How did the chat function help with student learning? Well, after the classes, I started to read the chat. And I realized that students were engaging and connecting, whether it was about the course content, whether it was something they agreed with, disagreed with, thought it was weird. They were engaging. Or if they were engaging about what was going on in each other's background. So a lot of students had their cameras on and they were going about their day, driving, doing stuff at home, and they were talking about that. And I realized that helped them to build community, which has been one of the biggest criticisms about online learning, is that you can't build community because you can't see each other, you can't interact. None of the students in this class knew each other before. And during the semester, they met face-to-face several times and they developed friendships. I was really surprised to learn that. Now their work, their presentations and the things that they submitted for grading was by far, to this date for me, the best work that I've ever graded in my 10 plus years as an educator. Honestly, at the end of the semester, I felt like, wow, these students, they got it, because we always know that they are the ones that are going to be leading the future. And I really felt comfortable feeling that these students were engaged. And somehow it seems like that function of the chat in allowing them to be able to express themselves freely and to engage with the material in a way that they could not engage in a traditional classroom, I feel it was very helpful in this way. So one of the ways that we have been hearing about the intersection of education, technology, and mental health are in the many studies on the mental health effect of social media on students. These studies have been shown that students' use of social media has been resulting in increased anxiety, depression, and lower satisfaction and reduced social interactions. There's also been reports of hopelessness and loneliness amongst students. So the number of more hours a student has been spending on social media, the more they were reporting feeling depressed, anxious, stressed, and having lower self-esteem, lower self-confidence, and self-worth. What I've noticed is that over the past 2 years, students have been more open about mental health. They're talking about the services and treatments they're receiving with me and in the classroom without fear or shame. This trend, however, has been present among students has not been present as much among students of lower socioeconomic status. In these settings, there's been less openness about mental health challenges. Another trend I've noticed in my classes, even in this past semester, was that about 15% of class presentations were about the effects of social media on student mental health. This was a big increase from the previous years, where only about 5% of presentations were on this topic. And the students who presented on this were very passionate about this. So that was a trend I've noticed, which was interesting. So students are becoming more aware of what is happening. So technology and mental health have been connected in the increase of virtual therapy becoming the norm since March 2020. Prior to March 2020, virtual therapy, like virtual education, was at will. Counselors did it if they wanted to, or if it was a preference for them, but it became mandatory afterwards if we were going to continue providing services. The counseling profession has had to shift and implement new policies about a practice that was almost taboo previously. There were very few counselors providing virtual therapy pre-pandemic. There have been some benefits to the service delivery mode, and I will outline them in a couple slides later. One connection of mental health and technology, though, which has been due to the increased use of digital services by students and the mental health effects of technology, is the consideration of an internet-related mental health diagnosis. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5, DSM-5, is the manual that is used to diagnose mental illnesses. In the most recent version, there is a proposal to make overuse of technology a verifiable disorder. So how does this relate? The Addiction Policy Forum has simplified the definition of addiction into 4 categories that are listed here. And so in order to be classified as an addiction, whether it's a behavioral addiction or an addiction to a substance, all four of these categories must be present. So as I go through these categories, I'd like for you to think about how this could apply to internet use, social media use, and so on. So first we have impaired control. This is when your intentions do not match your actions. Physical dependence is when you need more of the substance or behavior to feel satisfied, or you experience symptoms when you stop using it. That's considered withdrawal. Risky use is when you ignore the negative effect of the substance use or behavior. And social problems is when the use of the substance or the behavior causes problems in your immediate environment. So problems for you at home, at work, at school, or in the community. So have you thought of some ways that this could be applied to internet use? For example, do you know anyone who has said, I'm going to stop this game, or I'm going to stop scrolling on Facebook in about 20 minutes. I'll be done soon. And then you go back and 2 hours later, they're still there gaming or scrolling. This would be considered an example of impaired control. A recent study in 2021 has found that students are more likely to now embrace the label of addiction when it comes to their internet use. So we've talked about the role of technology in education, the effect on mental health, and the pandemic-driven effects, as well as use cases. I want to conclude with a sociological perspective of social media and technology. One sociological perspective that is used to examine society, learn more about society, is to look at the function of things. And when we do that, we will look at the manifest and intended functions of whatever we're studying. So the manifest functions is intended and the latent functions is unintended. So for example, with social media, some of the manifest functions, the reasons why it was developed, the reasons why we embrace this, are that it increased efficiency, it provided a lot of information, and was a form of socialization. So socialization, learning, rules and regulations through media has become a very predominant form of social life. Now, the latent function is that there are algorithms that are being used and that are designed with the market in mind, which is for profit. And this is wonderfully outlined in the documentary called The Social Dilemma, which talks about this sort of latent function of how social media has been operating in our lives in ways that we are not aware of. So what can we do with all of this information and all that we have discussed here today? So as an educator, adopting a flexible attitude and practice will be key in helping to improve student outcomes and engagement. Acknowledge that students have different learning styles and preferences, that not everyone is comfortable with online learning. Recognize the mental health effect of technology usage, and promote mental wellness by scheduling mental health days, including mental health resources on your learning management systems, and having guest speakers talk about mental wellness. These are some of the practices that I've used in my courses and have been helpful in destigmatizing mental health. Having regular talks, checking in with students at the beginning of classes, at the beginning of the weeks in terms of how they're doing. And also using technology to allow students to express these things in the classroom. Since students have been reluctant to speak out in class, have software or tools where they can provide their responses in a written format anonymously. This has also proved helpful. There are a lot of softwares out there that allow students to give open responses to questions that you may pose in the classroom. In your teaching or your curriculum, another way to help is to integrate technology, because students will be more engaged and also seek out instructional designers at your school, in the departments, to help you. They're there and they're really willing to help you to integrate technology in your curriculum. Teach critical thinking in your courses. Students are getting a vast amount of information, and they have been aware that some of it has been labeled fake news. So teaching them how to sift through this information will help to reduce anxiety about what to believe or what not to believe. If you're teaching synchronously, try encouraging the use of the chat and have a student assistant who will help you to monitor it, set parameters around this so that nothing really wonky happens in the chat while you're presenting or delivering the course. Expression in any form is an important aspect of mental wellness. Finally, recognize and acknowledge fatigue. Fatigue in your students and fatigue in ourselves as educators. Students have an enormous workload, and they feel that they often have to navigate education on their own, especially at the college or university level. Despite having resources at their fingertip, despite being told or informed about all of the resources on their campus, we still have to encourage them to use it and normalize the use of it in the success of their educational pursuits. In the area of mental health, some technology has been helpful in improving mental wellness, such as having apps for mental wellness. There are a variety of apps out there that are able to help clients record their thoughts, record their feelings, things that you may give them for homework that they may not do, they may not put it on paper, but if they have an app that will foster that, I've used that a lot in students, especially younger students, where clients have enjoyed that and reported using it and reporting it being very helpful in documenting how they're feeling or thinking. Groups such as AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or Narcotics Anonymous, grief groups, there are a ton of social support that can be received through online delivery. And that has been going on for quite a long time. So if you do a search for any of these, you will see that there are a ton of groups that are offered at multiple times of the day, multiple times of the week. And so this has been going on for a while, and this is something that can be used and suggested to clients, especially now that people may feel isolated. Text messaging to increase accountability has been something that I've used, which is sometimes you give clients homework and they may not remember, and you have to wait till the next session and go over it. But just sending a simple text with their permission, is it okay if I send you a text to remind you to practice self-care? And that has helped a lot with a few of my clients where they said, those reminders just really help. So that's one way technology can be useful in the counseling setting. And using videos to educate clients about things, to build their skills in techniques such as breathing techniques or meditation has also been helpful. Telling someone, hey, meditate for 10 minutes or practicing it in session may not be feasible. So providing specific videos that you've vetted yourself, you've checked it out and checked it for appropriateness for the client has been also helpful. It is one way in which technology has been helpful in the mental health setting. And so finally, as a counselor, what are some of the things that we can do? We can recognize that a comprehensive assessment will bring positive outcomes in counseling. Since internet use is a big part of our lives, we can include questions about this on our assessment for both children and adults. A client may report having insomnia, but if we never ask about their use of technology at the beginning, when you first meet them, it may take a while to connect this insomnia to staying up late to use the internet. Psychoeducation is also a very significant part of counseling services. So educating students and parents on how to use it responsibly to enhance mental wellness are some ways that we can address the effects of technology on mental health. Stay current on trends and information on the effect of technology on mental health. In The Social Dilemma, one of the presenters made a critical statement about the effect of technology on brain function. They stated that our brains are operating on a 100-million-year-old system, and computers are operating at lightning speeds ahead of it. And so there's a gap that has not been bridged. So you have two systems of two different rates that are interacting in very intricate ways. And that may be part of why they are colliding and we are experiencing these negative effects on mental health. So finally, as a counselor, take time for yourself, take sabbaticals, enlist the colleagues to see your clients while you are taking this break to care for yourself and improve your mental wellness. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this discussion of how education, mental health, and technology have intersected and will continue to intersect in our lives in some ways that which we can use technology to our benefit in the classroom and in the counseling setting.